Drill time, baby. So this part is kind of tough.
Lots of Bulbasaurs on the sides.
Yeah, I would say that's my biggest weakness is
Bulbasaurs.
aiming at them. I try to kill them with like plasma or the contact beam, like a charged shot,
Yeah, that's...
and it does not work well.
doesn't fire fast enough to even miss.
But it works. The beam does work great on the guys climbing onto the rig.
Do you aim for the body? Or I guess you're using the plasma, or the contact beam. You're definitely aiming for the body.
Yeah.
I would have used the plasma cutter
Yes.
in your situation and gone for the tentacles, not the body. The
Yeah.
Bulbasaur head.
Yep. So, I guess the key here is just making sure you have enough health and ammo. There's a few things that you can like pick up.
Uh-huh.
Like there's some explosive barrels.
But considering you just
And there's
destroy
like a-
toddlers for like 5 minutes, it's
there was like a
probably not
large
worth it.
health pack right there,
Oh,
which I think is worth picking up.
yeah.
How many do we think are above us?
That kind of sucked.
All right, so back to are there any games that have a good mix of multiplayer and single player and enjoyed them? StarCraft has good both, but not like single player I can play for itself on its own and stay interested in it when multiplayer is available.
Okay.
And like Halo, I'll play through it once and then never play it again and only play multiplayer.
But I think you could go for, if you were trying to go for brutal difficulty on StarCraft.
No, that's not fun because that's cheating AI. Whereas if you're playing multiplayer, that's more balanced. That's people that make
Yeah.
mistakes. When it's brutal difficulty, that's the computer that knows what you're doing.
But it's still a challenge because they're levels. They're not like enemies. I'm not talking like, brutal difficulty bots.
I know that's what you mean.
So I don't know. I think it's a fun challenge on some of those, like those missions where you're just running around as a guy and you don't manage an army.
I guess
Those are a lot of fun on brutal.
I guess the only thing, something that comes to mind right now is Diablo 2, because most of that game. So there's PvP, and then there is
Plants versus players.
no. That's PvZ is what you're thinking of. No, there's PvP where you're fighting other people, but like the majority of the game, you're fighting against the computer with other players to collect loot.
Yeah.
And that's like World of Warcraft.
Yeah.
Like there's PVM and PvP. And I guess that's about as close as I can. Like playing with other people against the computer is as good as single player can get if you consider that single player, really.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Mhm.
Have you ever played anything like that?
I've heard they're very addictive though.
Oh, quite addictive. Even Resistance 2 had something like that. They had the single player, then they had like
The co-op
the
multiplayer.
co-op multiplayer where it wasn't single player levels, it was like levels that you could play over and over again and level up your PvP player. And then, or no, maybe it didn't. Anyway, but then there was also the multiplayer, like, arenas, 4-on-4, 8-on-8, whatever it was.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'd say like Diablo 2 is probably the closest thing to
A good mix.
a good mix, yeah.
Well, thanks for the question,
So we reached the foundation pylons of the government sector.
Jedi
So how do we get
Protector.
Nothing else you want to add to that?
Straight ahead. We do have a giant drill.
I mean,
in? I'm right on top of this thing,
I'm
right?
thinking of stuff, and multiplayer is basically, my multiplayer experience is limited to the Xbox 360. So there's so many games that I just put so many hours of single player in, and then it's only recently, maybe 4 or 5 years ago, that multiplayer has become like huge. So, and like once you start playing multiplayer, it's so much more addictive than single player.
Oh, yes.
So it's really hard. I mean, there's games like this where the single player is awesome experience.
And they're basically made by different studios.
Yeah.
They're like different games entirely.
And you need to have both, I think. Be a
We better move fast. Those things are gonna
well-rounded gamer.
to sell well, I think they need to have both. But then there's games like Counter-Strike that
No, I
basically
mean,
only
I think as a
multiplayer.
gamer, you need to own a game that you really like for single player and own a game you really like for multiplayer.
I can, if I wasn't doing this site, I would own one game for multiplayer and play nothing but that,
Yeah.
and then go from single player to single player.
Yeah.